In the mid-19th century, the desire for new land under the ideas of manifest destiny pushed the United States government to seek expansion. The Nebraska Territory would provide new opportunities for farmers, hunters, and prospectors. However, a big question arose, whether or not this territory should be free or not. This dilemma pushed Congress to work on a decision. The Illinois Senator Stephen A. Douglas came up with a proposition and drafted a bill to the Senate. This was mainly due to his interest in railroads. The bill proposed Kansas and Nebraska to be accepted as separate territories to the Union. The determining factor to whether each territory would be free or not would be determined by popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty is the principle that the authority of a government is created and sustained by the consent of its people. This is most commonly known as rule by the people. Popular sovereignty was determined by a vote of the settlers in the territories, whether they would be free or slave states once accepted into the Union. Initially, the newly elected President Pierce was hesitant towards Douglas's bill, but came to support it. On the 3rd of March, 1854, the Senate passed in favor of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, in 37-14. On the 21st of March, the House passed the Act 113-100. President Pierce signed the act into law on May 30th. The Missouri Compromise was effectively replaced, no longer honoring the free and slave state divide. It would now be up to the settlers of the territories to determine the status of slavery. With mounting arguments between free soilers and pro-slavers, settlers flooded the territories. The most prominent conflict was in Kansas, where the pro-slavers known as Blue Lodgers or Border Ruffians flooded into the Kansas territory from Missouri. Free soilers known as Jayhawkers flocked from the northern states, primarily New England. Each side came into the Kansas territory in hopes of winning the votes based upon popular sovereignty. Free soilers actually settled into the territory, while the pro-slavers just lodged, hence the name. Mounting tensions pushed into open conflict amongst the border zone of the Kansas Territory and the state of Missouri. The Blue Lodgers were known as Border Ruffians and came armed to force their way into the ballots. The sacking of St. Lorraine was an attempt by the Border Ruffians to scare off the Free Soilers with burning down the town. John Brown sought to bring revenge for the sacking. Brown raided the pro-slaver town of Potawatomi Creek and killed 5 settlers with his sons. John Brown was eventually tracked down by federal troops and hanged. His sons were arrested. The countryside of Kansas was destitute of order, and Pierce was accused of having a little revolution. He was not elected for a second term. Kansas's settler population supported the free state vote with a majority. Kansas and Nebraska would not be accepted as states until the end of the Civil War. The Kansas-Nebraska Act further destabilized the Union of the United States. The act pushed the nation into further conflict between the North and the South.